The last 3 werewolves had been running for nearly 2 hours after fleeing the base. Tracking them through the snow was easy. Deep footprints, blood trails, broken branches. Fear left signs everywhere. Around 10 minutes into the hunt, something changed. A low ache formed in the back of Ronin's head. Not pain, instinct. The same instinct that had kept him alive through wars, assassinations, and the void itself. Something was following him. AI, scan 100-yard perimeter. A brief pause. Negative. No active threats detected. Ronin kept walking. He trusted his instincts more than any scanner ever built. Without breaking stride, he sent a silent command through the neural link. One of his drones detached from his backpack and disappeared into the trees behind him, masking its signal as it began scanning the forest. That was concerning. Nothing on Earth had so far successfully tracked him unnoticed. Nothing, unless it came from the void, and only 2 known entities could bypass his scanners completely. The forest suddenly felt colder. The boy's voice echoed softly in his mind. "You think something's hunting us?" Ronin didn't answer immediately. Another drone was dispatched to continue tracking the werewolves, while he silently circled back through the forest, moving in a wide arc toward the base. Then the hidden drone sent back an image. The boy went silent for nearly 3 seconds. "What is that?" Ronin's voice turned flat. "A small but dangerous problem." The image flickered again. A thing made of living shadow dragged itself between the trees. It never truly touched the ground. Black tendrils wrapped around trunks and branches, pulling it from shadow to shadow like a parasite crawling through darkness itself. Its body constantly shifted shape, but the eye stayed the same. One massive green eye rotating endlessly in every direction, watching everything. Its mouth opened slowly. No sound came out, but the boy felt it anyway. A pressure, a psychic moan crawling through his thoughts. Fear, dread, disorientation. The AI spoke quietly. "Entity partially exists outside standard physical space." The boy swallowed hard. "Can you kill it?" Then Ronin answered, "No." That surprised the boy more than the creature itself. "Why not?" "Because I don't have my real equipment with me." The AI almost sounded amused. His original, elite ghost assassin loadout would qualify as extreme overkill by human standards. The boy stared at the creature through the drone feed. "And the weapons you have now are already terrifying." Ronin ignored the comment. "It's feeding on the residual chaos energy from the axes I used earlier. That residue created a trail." The creature suddenly jerked its eye directly toward the drone. The feed distorted. Static rippled across the screen. Then the thing began moving faster. Much faster. Ronin turned toward the abandoned base. Change of plans. The abandoned facility looked even worse at night. Snow drifted through broken fencing. The old floodlights were dead. Windows stared out into the forest like black, empty sockets. The humans had already set traps around the perimeter in case the nightmares returned. Getting past them was effortless. Ronin moved through the defenses like a ghost, silent, invisible. Inside, the building smelled like rust, mold, and old machinery, abandoned for close to 20 years. Maybe more, but underneath the decay, void technology. Ronin reached a secured basement door. 3 seconds later, the lock clicked open. Inside was a containment room filled with old Earth equipment, mixed beside sleek black void machinery. Dust covered most of it, but some systems still had power. After 5 minutes, Ronin found what he needed. Containment tanks, portal anchors, emergency extraction hardware. He immediately opened a secure portal channel and transmitted the drone footage. For the first time in hours, other minds entered his. Telepaths. We received the transmission. Then, that entity should not be on Earth. We know. Give us 10 minutes before engagement. Ronin nodded once. Understood. The connection ended. The boy spoke quietly. You sound worried. Ronin stood motionless in the dark room. Yes. That answer scared the boy more than anything else. 5 minutes later, the hidden drone sent another warning. The creature was approaching rapidly now, hungry. Ronin removed both axes and positioned himself near the basement entrance before fading into the shadows. Waiting. The temperature in the stairwell dropped sharply. Then came the feeling again. That silent psychic moan pressing against the mind. The lights above flickered weakly. Green energy suddenly pulsed from the portal anchors. And then it appeared, dragging itself down the stairs, tendrils scraping against concrete, its massive eye darting wildly through the darkness, searching, starving. The creature sensed the chaos energy on the axes immediately. It became frantic. The eye widened, the mouth stretched open impossibly far. The psychic pressure slammed into the room hard enough that even the AI briefly distorted. Warning, cognitive interference detected. The creature lunged toward the energy source. Too late. A column of green void light exploded downward from the containment array. The entity shrieked silently as dozens of energy restraints wrapped around its body. For the first time, the creature felt fear. It thrashed violently, shadows tearing across the walls as the beam ripped it upward into the portal. Then it vanished. Silence returned instantly. A voice echoed through Ronin's mind. We have it secured. And 1984 Zula Alpha. Good luck. The connection closed. Ronin locked the building behind him, reopened a portal into the frozen wilderness, and vanished back into the night. The last 3 werewolves were still running. And now they had no idea something worse was hunting them again. The survived werewolves had been running for hours, not hunting, not prowling, running. For the first time in their lives, the predators of the Alaskan wilderness understood fear, and fear made strange companions. The male Omega from the base pack moved at the front, 7'6", dark fur, amber eyes, built like a massive linebacker, blood matted across his side from wounds that had never fully closed. Behind him moved the 2 females, one silver-furred with cold blue eyes, older and more disciplined despite her injuries. The other younger, white fur, yellow eyes, faster, hot-blooded, angry. All 3 were exhausted. All 3 knew they were being hunted. The forest around them had become wrong. Every shadow looked alive. Every sound made them stop. Even their own heartbeats seemed loud enough to betray them. Humans hunted them. Something worse stalked them. The males saw the elk first, a cow elk moving slowly through the trees, weak, separated, easy. He didn't hesitate. The elk barely had time to react before he slammed into it. A single violent snap echoed through the woods as its neck broke instantly. The females rushed forward to feed, and the males snarled hard enough to stop both of them. Something wasn't right. The younger female growled in irritation. Then she felt it too. That pressure, that instinct, the feeling of being watched. The male grabbed the elk carcass and dragged it into a small open field surrounded by snow-covered hills. 80 yards of visibility in every direction. Better than the trees. Safer, or so they hoped. The three fed cautiously. Eat, stop, look, repeat, always watching the forest line, always waiting for something to move. Then the male froze. High near the tree line stood two massive silhouettes, 12 feet tall, broad shoulders, red eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Bigfoots, a giant even by their standards, 1,000 pounds of muscle and silence. But the terrifying part wasn't its size. It wasn't hunting. It was watching. The two females slowly stood beside the male, trying to appear threatening despite their injuries. The giants never moved. Their instincts screamed at them to attack. But something older, something buried deeper in their blood, told them not to. The younger female whimpered softly. The silver female backed away first. The male followed immediately. None of them could survive a fight against something that large, not wounded, not exhausted. Slowly, the three abandoned the elk and retreated into the darkness. The giants simply watched them leave. 400 yards later, movement appeared beside the massive figures. A faint green glow flickered in the darkness. Jade goggles. Shadow Ronin stepped beside the creature. Then the Bigfoots collapsed inward, its massive body shrinking and folding into itself until only a hovering drones remained. The boy sounded surprised. "You scare them with the fake Bigfoots?" Ronin kept watching the retreating werewolves. Fear makes predators predictable. The AI responded instantly. Initial success probability, 85%. A brief pause. Refined probability after observed behavioral response, 97%. Ronin's tiger stripe camouflage slowly shifted white as the armor adapted to the snow. Good. The green glow of his visor dimmed. "I'm going hunting." Then he vanished into the storm. The werewolves fled toward the mountains, toward the old lair of the female's former pack. They checked behind themselves constantly, every few seconds, every shadow, every sound. So far, nothing followed. The younger female slowly began calming down. That was her mistake. The male stopped so suddenly the silver female nearly slammed into him. 50 yards away stood a barren hill. At the top, two glowing green eyes stared down at them. The younger female immediately snarled. The male felt pure terror. The thing on the hill wasn't chasing them. It had been waiting. The silver female turned and bolted instantly. The male followed without hesitation. But the younger female charged, the folly of youth. Fueled by exhaustion, fear, and rage, she believed speed and aggression would save her. Shadow Ronin moved downhill toward her. Not fast, not rushed, certain. The younger female faltered mid-charge. Instinct finally caught up with reality. Too late. The howl that followed echoed through the valley. The male and silver female never looked back again. They ran. Not as predators, as prey. The mountains slowly came into view as dawn began creeping over the horizon. The silver female glanced backward first. Green goggles, still following, always following. Fear completely consumed them now. The only thought left in their minds was survival. Reach the lair, hide, find a way to live. Halfway between the mountain path and the forest line, Shadow Ronin appeared, standing motionless in the snow, waiting. The two werewolves skidded to a halt. A flash of purple and green cut through the morning air. One strike, two bodies. The male and the silver female looked at each other for the briefest second before darkness consumed them both. Ronin turned away before their bodies even hit the ground. 36 chess pieces have been terminated by dawn's light. The lair entrance stood 10 feet high and 5 feet wide. Large, well used. The AI immediately spoke. Energy signature detected. A pause. Matching pattern observed in the Bigfoot cave. Ronin studied the opening carefully. Unlike the other cave, this one felt unstable. Sick. The snow around the entrance had partially melted despite the freezing temperature. The AI highlighted several weak points along the rock face. Ronin drew his pistol and fired. Purple energy rounds slammed into the stone. Nothing happened. Then the mountain groaned. Cracks spread across the entrance. Rocks began collapsing inward. Suddenly, Ronin's warning system screamed. He jumped backward as 4 tentacle-like limbs burst through the falling debris, trying to grab him. Ronin fired again. Energy bolts tore through the limbs, damaging them enough to force them back into the darkness. Then he saw the eyes, deep inside the collapsing cave. Massive, one red, one yellow, each nearly the size of his head. A voice thundered through the valley. "Mortal, you dare kill my creations!" The mountain shook violently. "You will be destroyed for your crimes." Ronin stared into the darkness for a moment, then sighed. "You got a big mouth." The creature roared so loudly snow fell from the cliffs above. "And you talk too much." Ronin turned and calmly walked downhill. Behind him, the entire mountainside collapsed. Thousands of tons of rock buried the lair entrance beneath an avalanche of stone. The screaming finally stopped. Then Ronin felt it. A presence moving softly across the valley. Ancient, calm, watching. A woman's voice whispered through the snowfall. "You have my thanks, Armored One." Ronin stopped briefly. Then both figures vanished into the white wilderness, heading in different directions. The echo of Manny's words still rang through Leah's mind. "Chris is hurt bad." Leah moved quickly through the dark second floor of the base. Below her, the rest of the team had shifted into survival mode. Vic and Max were setting motion alarms. Doug was reinforcing entrances. Heather was outside backing the juggernaut into the motor pool, crushing dead werewolves beneath its tires without even slowing down. Nobody wanted another attack. Not tonight. Leah stopped at the doorway of an old office. A dead werewolf had been propped against the wall. Around its neck hung a crude cardboard sign. A wolf could lose its head on this job. Leah stared at it for a second before shaking her head. A small smile escaped despite herself. "I'm surrounded by professional 16-year-old boys." The smile faded quickly. Reality came rushing back. She stepped inside. Chris looked worse than she expected. Glass cuts ran across his face. His right eye was swollen shut. Bruises darkened his skin. His arm hung in a sling. But it was the claw wounds across his chest that truly worried her. 3 deep marks. Too deep. Nate stood beside him. The look in his eyes hit Leah immediately. Not fear, not panic. Something worse. The look of a man about to lose family. Leah knew the story. Many years ago, Nate had lost his little brother during a helicopter crash deep in Honduras. Chris had walked away from Special Operations Selection just to help Nate search for him. No orders, no support, just loyalty. Manny finally looked up. "I stabilized him for now," he said quietly. "But I'm not a surgeon." Leah nodded once. She already understood. Then Manny spoke again. "I'm calling Bear." That got her attention. Bear wasn't just another contractor. He ran the former operators, trackers, and hunters who specialized in things most people thought were myths. More importantly, they had Doc, a retired army medic and ER surgeon. "Do it," Leah said immediately. Manny headed downstairs toward the juggernaut. Outside, cold wind rolled through the ruined base. Heather looked up as he approached. "I need to contact Klondike now." Heather nodded. "I'll boost the signal. Let's make sure it gets through clean." A few moments later, the radio crackled alive. Then a familiar, irritated voice answered. "Bloody hell, Manny, you trying to kill my beauty sleep?" Heather blinked. Manny almost laughed despite himself. "Irish, former Royal Marine, professional smartass." Manny's voice hardened instantly. "We got hit hard." Silence. "Chris is hurt bad." Another pause. Then Manny forced the words out. "We ran into real werewolves." Nothing answered for nearly 3 seconds. Then alarms exploded in the background of the Klondike base. Irish's voice returned immediately. Completely different now. Cold. Professional. "Bear's coming." A second voice took over. Deep. Controlled. "Bear." What happened? Manny told him everything. The attack. The packs. The alpha. The thing moving through the shadows. When he finished, Bear exhaled slowly. "Doc heard every word. We'll be rolling by 4:20. "Bring everything," Manny replied. "Leah wants everyone inside the juggernaut." "Good plan," Bear answered immediately. Then Doc's older voice cut through the radio. "Chris hates people fussing over him." Even Manny smiled slightly at that. "That's the truth." "We'll call again 30 minutes out," Bear said. Then Heather frowned. "Wait. Bear." "What?" "Did you forgot to tell us something?" Bear answered flatly. "No." The radio cut out. By 4:10 a.m., the motor pool had been secured. Most of the team crowded inside the juggernaut. Exhaustion was finally beginning to hit. Adrenaline could only carry people so far. Manny gave Chris something for the pain. Outside, light snow drifted across the destroyed base. None of them realized that somewhere beyond the trees, Shadow Ronin had already slipped onto the base once again, and completed another mission without them ever seeing him. Miles away, hidden inside the frozen wreckage of an old passenger plane, Ronin watched the base through his drones. Snow drifted through holes in the broken fuselage. A small fire crackled beside him. Nearby lay the remains of the elk killed by the werewolves. Efficient. No wasted fuel, no wasted movement. The AI spoke calmly inside his mind. "Analysis confirms Chris has a 45% chance of survival." The boy answered immediately. "We have to help him." Ronin remained silent. The boy pushed harder. "Maybe they can help us too." A long pause followed. Then Ronin finally answered. "I'm thinking about it." By 7 a.m., Klondike arrived. The first people at the massacre site were Irish, Doc, and the twins, Kitchi and Wolvesa. The moment they saw a full picture of what had happened, Irish stopped the truck dead in the snow. Bloody hell, bodies were everywhere, slice apart, crushed, cut in half. "This looks like someone threw an entire werewolf pack into a blender." Bear's convoy arrived minutes later, and nobody liked the expressions on the twins' faces. Doc and Irish immediately headed for Chris. The others surveyed the damage in silence. Then Kitchi spoke quietly. "We found wolf tracks everywhere." He paused. "But no signs or tracks of whatever attack and killed them." Bear's jaw tightened. "And?" Kitchi and Wolvesa both looked toward the forest. "It killed the alpha by itself." Made it look easy. Nobody liked hearing that. Not even a little. Later that morning, both teams gathered inside the mess hall. The mood remained heavy. Leah's people had not slept much. Nobody trusted the silence outside. Heather and Vic connected a laptop to an old monitor and played the security footage. The room fell completely silent, Ronin moving through the darkness. The werewolves dying before they even understood they were under attack. The impossible speed, the precision, the lethal skills. When the footage ended, nobody spoke for several seconds. Then Rockstar finally muttered, "I think we need more guns." Doug stared at the screen. "I don't think enough guns exist." That finally broke the tension. A few tired laughs escaped around the room. Bear raised a hand. "Focus on what we can control." His eyes moved across the room, looking each person. "We're all worried about him, but panic won't help him." Around 5 p.m., the last werewolf bodies were hauled into an open field and burned. Fences were repaired, windows boarded shut, defensive positions reinforced. By evening, both teams finally sat together in what remained of the old mess hall. That was when Leah asked the question everyone wanted answered. Why were there 3 different packs near this base? Bear leaned back slowly. The base pack wasn't even close to the base 72 hours ago. Irish nodded. "Only thing we can figure." His expression darkened. "Old Ivan and his family may be moving again." Doug frowned. "Who the hell is Old Ivan?" Bear answered quietly. "A very dangerous Bigfoot." Leah blinked. "How dangerous?" Irish gave a humorless smile. "Dangerous enough that werewolf packs avoid him and the family." "The original Alpha got into a fight with Yvonne's oldest son 8 years ago," Erica added. "The Alpha was destroyed by Yvonne's son." Vic stared. "You people actually filmed that?" "We got lucky," Erica replied. The room fell quiet again. Then Heather spoke softly. "If Ronin came through both pack territory and Ivan's territory," she looked around the table, "then maybe the impossible isn't impossible anymore." Nobody argued with her, because deep down, they all knew she was right. Leah asked, "And the other 2 packs?" Bear answered her. They might smelled weakness in the base pack. Night had fallen completely over the Alaskan wilderness. No moon, no stars, only cold wind moving through the trees and shadows so dark they looked alive. Around 1:40 a.m., nearly a mile from the base, 3 massive bodies slammed into the snow almost simultaneously. The last one managed a weak gasp before dying. Young Bigfoots, each over 8 feet tall, broad-shouldered, powerful. All 3 had died before the first body even hit the ground. Blood steamed against the frozen snow. Standing among them was Shadow Ronin. Motionless, silent, the faint jade glow from his visor reflected across the falling snow. One of his swords slowly returned back into its sheath across his back. The AI spoke calmly inside his mind. 3 targets eliminated. The boy answered quietly. They were danger to Chris's people. Ronin didn't respond. His attention had already shifted back toward the base. 3 options formed in his mind. Remove the humans before they interfered with his mission, or infiltrate the base, gather intelligence, and disappear before they even knew he was there. For several seconds, the cold wind was the only sound. Then Ronin vanished into the darkness. At exactly 2 a.m., Heather and Wolfsa crossed paths outside the main buildings. Both women looked exhausted. Neither spoke at first. Their boots crunched softly through the snow. Finally, Heather broke the silence. "So, Max handling the breakup, okay?" Wolfsa snorted softly. "Better than I expected." A faint smile crossed her face. Long-distance relationships suck. Heather nodded. Fair point. Wolfsa adjusted her rifle. You watching Chris tonight? Yeah. And you? Saving Doug from Vic and Rockstar. Heather laughed quietly. Good luck with that. You too. The two split off in opposite directions. Heather continued toward the building where Chris rested. The deeper she moved through the shadows, the quieter the base felt. Too quiet. Then she stopped. Her breath caught instantly. 10 feet ahead of her stood Shadow Ronin. He had appeared so silently her brain couldn't even process how long he'd been there. Every survival instinct in her body screamed at her to run, but she couldn't move. The sleek, alien, urban tiger stripe armor blended into the darkness around him. The hood concealed most of his face. Only the glowing jade visor remained visible, watching her, studying her.
Heather tried to step backward. Her boot slipped on the ice. Before she could fall, Ronin caught her effortlessly. One gloved hand locked onto her arm with impossible speed. Strong, controlled, gentle. That somehow terrified her even more. For one brief second, she was close enough to feel the cold rolling off his armor. Close enough to realize he felt like fear, and something she couldn't name. Heather's pulse hammered in her ears. One thought hit her instantly, like standing near a tornado. Then Ronin spoke, flat, calm, emotionless.
Chris has a 45% chance of survival.
You can help him?
I can. If I wanted the humans removed from this base, it would already be done.
Okay.
Take me to him.
Heather entered the building first. Leah immediately looked up from beside Chris's bed.
Heather? Heather realized she'd held the door open a second too long. You, okay? Heather forced herself to breathe normally. Yeah, just had a flashback from last night. Leah's expression softened slightly. You're tougher than you think you are. Heather gave a weak nod, then quickly changed the subject. How's Chris? Leah looked back toward him. Not good, her voice lowered. Doc was here 45 minutes ago. Fever's getting worse. Infection too. Heather's stomach tightened. At first light, we're pulling him out and heading for a hospital. Leah rubbed exhaustion from her eyes. Hopefully he survives the trip. Heather glanced toward the doorway behind her. He'll survive. Leah frowned slightly. What? Nothing, Heather said quickly. I'll stand watch a while. Leah studied her for a second, but eventually nodded. Wake Doc or Manny if anything changes. As Leah left the room, Heather slowly turned around. Ronin was already standing beside Chris. She never heard him enter. Like a ghost. One of his drones hovered silently over the bed, blue light scanning across Chris's body. Another detached from Ronin's backpack carrying a compact metallic case. The medkit looked alien. Smooth black metal with faint silver energy lines running across its surface. Ronin opened it calmly. Inside rested several injector devices. Without hesitation, he pressed the first against Chris's neck, the second directly into the claw wounds, the third into his leg. Chris twitched slightly but never woke. Heather stared in shock. What is that? Nanomedicine, Ronin answered. The drone continued scanning. Ronin finally stepped back. In 1 hour, he will stabilize. He looked toward Chris again. In 2 hours, he will live. Heather stared at him. How are you doing this? Ronin ignored the question. Instead, he turned toward her. Ronin ignored the question. Instead, he turned toward her. I will return by 9 a.m. The jade glow from his visor softened slightly. Then I will speak to everyone. Before Heather could answer, he stepped backward into the darkness near the wall and vanished. Not ran, not walked. Vanished. Heather stood frozen for several seconds, then slowly looked back toward Chris. By 4 a.m., his breathing had already steadied. The fever began breaking shortly after. By sunrise, the infection was gone. Even the claw wounds had started healing. At 6 a.m., Doc and Manny rushed into the room expecting the worst. Instead, Chris was awake asking for water. Both men stopped dead. Doc immediately moved to the bed and pulled the bandages back. Silence filled the room. The claw wounds were almost completely closed. No infection, no swelling, no fever. Doc checked them twice, then a third time. That's impossible. Manny looked toward Heather slowly. Heather folded her arms. I'll explain everything at 9. By 8 a.m., the entire base was buzzing. Some people looked relieved, others nervous. Most just wanted answers. At 8:20, Chris quietly asked Heather to stay behind a moment before breakfast. The room finally emptied. Chris looked at her for several long seconds, then spoke carefully. We had help again. Heather froze. Chris gave a faint, tired smile. Someone opened the gate for Team and me during the attack. His voice stayed weak. Same person opened the garage door. Heather stared. Chris slowly looked toward the window. And the same person gave me another chance to live. You know? She whispered. Chris held up one hand. Don't say anything. His good eye shifted back toward her. Keep your promise. Heather nodded slowly. That somehow made the next 30 minutes even harder. At exactly 8:55 a.m., Heather stood outside the mess hall, pacing nervously through the snow. Then she felt it before she saw him. She turned slowly. Ronin stood 20 feet away from her. Even in daylight, he looked unreal. Alien urban, tiger stripe, stealthy tactical armor suit, twin swords crossed over his back, and a backpack on top the swords. That is blended with the suit. Tactical cowl blending into the suit itself, with menacing full face mask with glowing jade green visor, snow-covered world around him. Heather felt fear crawl up her spine again, but this time something else mixed in with it. Curiosity, respect, maybe even trust. She took a slow breath. The other night, Ronin remained silent. A name popped into my head. Shadow Ronin. The AI suddenly spoke through hidden speakers. Ronin is an ancient Japanese term for a warrior without a master. The boy's younger voice followed immediately. It fits you. Heather smiled slightly despite herself. A long pause followed. Then Ronin answered quietly. Better than 1984 Zulu Alpha. Heather blinked. That was your code name? Yes. Another pause. Then Ronin looked toward the mess hall doors. Are you ready? Heather let out a nervous breath. No. She opened the door anyway, and Shadow Ronin stepped inside behind her. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Like death itself walk into the room. Even Bear looked briefly frozen. The glowing jade visor slowly scanned the room like a predator studying targets. Then Ronin spoke calmly. 1 mile from here, there are 3 dead Bigfoot who heading for the base. Silence still filled the room. Finally, Leah stood first. Then why are you here? Chris answered before Ronin could. You opened the gate for us. And the garage door also. Ronin nodded once. Yes, A drone detached from his backpack and floated toward the wall. Blue light projected outward. Words slowly appeared across the old concrete surface. He came to Earth because of me. The room went dead silent. Then another line appeared. I'm from Earth. Nate stood so quickly, his chair nearly hit the floor. His voice trembled. My little brother disappeared. Ronin looked directly at him. The boy's voice spoke softly through the room. I don't remember much, only fear, pain, and someone with red eyes and black hair telling me never forget who I was. Silence crushed the room. Nobody interrupted him. Nobody even breathed loudly. The boy continued quietly. Then one day, the ladies of the Oracle found me hidden deep inside Shadow Ronin's mind. Heather slowly looked around the room. Shadow Ronin's still a monster. Maybe not completely. Now they saw something worse. Someone who survived long enough to become very terrifying. After several hours of investigating the secret lab under the base, Heather and Ronin found something. Before they left the basement, Ronin had contacted the rebels. That alone had nearly broken her brain. One moment she was standing in an abandoned underground facility. The next, an alien woman who looked like some impossible alien version of Jean Grey was speaking directly into her mind. The rebels apologized for what the Emperor and Empire had done to humanity. Heather still wasn't sure how to feel about that. And Alien Woman said, I like his new name, Shadow Ronin. She had asked them one question before the connection ended. Nate's little brother, and what he looked like, and his name is Tyler. Could they find out if, Tyler ended up in the void and if he was still alive? The answer stayed with her for a long time. We will do our best. Before the teams departed Alaska, Ronin deployed 3 drones around the base for security. Everyone gathered in the old mess hall. Most were eating. Some were cleaning weapons. Others just sat quietly, exhausted. Then Heather and Ronin walked in together and dropped a bombshell on everyone. The base was never a research station. It had been a processing center, a place where humans were sorted, cataloged, and shipped into the void. From 1974 to 2007, more than 500,000 people had passed through these facilities. And there are more than one base like this. Over 200 hidden sites worldwide, nearly 20 Cabal regional managers involved. The room had gone dead silent. No jokes, no smart comments, just shock. Then anger. Pure anger. It only took a few seconds before everyone in that room made the same decision. This war had become personal. The world was beginning to feel something was wrong, even if they didn't understand what it was yet. Now both teams, Sentinels of the Night and the Klondike group, were quietly building a network of allies they could actually trust. Everything was being done old school. Minimal internet use, no digital trails, face-to-face meetings whenever possible. The less attention they attracted, the longer they stayed alive.
I sat in my 2-bedroom log cabin along the Idaho-Washington border, writing in my journal. Even now, I still hadn't fully processed everything that had happened. It had been nearly 2 months since we left Alaska. Real werewolves, dogmen, Bigfoot, Shadow Ronin, aliens, even Mother Nature herself. Somehow, all of it had become part of my reality. What terrified me most wasn't the monsters. It was learning that governments around the world had willingly sold their own people into the void in exchange for power, technology, money, and influence. That truth was far scarier than any creature we'd encountered. Leah and Max eventually came up with a name for the boy, Ajay. a combination of Andrew and Jacob, named after their nephews. The boy loved it. For the first time in a very long time, he had something that truly belonged to him. A name, an identity, a future. Ronin had continued his hunts for Mother Nature. The statement still sounded ridiculous every time I thought about it, yet somehow it was true. The strange part wasn't that Mother Nature existed. The strange part was that she seemed far less interested in punishing humanity and far more interested in punishing the things corrupting the planet. That thought alone kept me awake some nights. Max, Vic, Doug, and Manny had all volunteered to join Ronin on a hunt. I still wasn't sure whether that made them brave or completely insane. Outside, a cold wind moved through the dark pine trees surrounding the cabin. The branches swayed softly beneath the moonlight. For just a moment, I thought I saw a pair of jade-green eyes watching from the forest. Not threatening, not hunting, watching, protecting, watching over all of us. Or maybe just me. I smiled despite myself. Then I glanced at the clock. 11:57 p.m. Almost midnight. I found myself wondering how Ronin was doing with the others. Then another thought crossed my mind. Would they survive the hunt or survive him? My smile widened. Somewhere out there in the darkness, Shadow Ronin was still hunting, and for the first time in my life, I was glad he was on our side.
Thanks for watching. Chapter 5, please like and share, subscribe, and comment. Every little bit helps the channel out. Thanks again.